Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so what is the secret or the key to success and succeeding? Now, I've been fortunate to have played on at least at the very least, a very few truly championship teams with what they call a winning mentality, okay? And when you play on more than or compete on one or more of those teams and you get to the top of your division, you start to see the difference between those who win and those who don't. Now, there was one year that I was on a football team that did not have the winning mentality. Now, here's the thing. They had phenomenal players, big, strong, fast. They played football their entire lives since they were a kid, and they were feared during what they call the Pee-wee years and I forget the other youthful football in the area. And by the time they got to 10th grade, here's the thing, they had all the talent, but they did not win. And I know I was on that team one year, and there was a reason why. One of the reasons was there was one player who was one of the best players, but he didn't perform up to his level, not even, I would say 60%, if that, and all year long. Because he complained and complained, and he was always looking for, what was wrong with everything. And he did throw off the rest of the team because he was like, I think he was the strongest player on the team, and he was the most kind of a mouthy kind of guy. And he was the reason why I left that team to go back home to play for my original team. Now, he doesn't know that. In fact, I've never told anyone this, but I knew right then and there in the middle of the season, like, yeah, I'm not going to play with this team next year. And like, no way. Now, because I was on that team, it allowed me to see the difference between a winning mentality and a losing mentality, and it's really just a hair, just a shave or two. Now, okay, I'm going to give you, so and also in other areas of my life, I did really well. There was about a 2-year stint in boxing where I didn't lose a single match. It didn't matter if I competed on the state level with the very best fighters, or if I fought on the local regional level. It didn't matter, I was going to win. And then I got on a kickboxing team where we had some of the best fighters in the world, and we came from Vacaville, California was known as Fighter Town, at least when it came to sports. And the funny thing, it wasn't a very big town at all, but we had at the time the greatest world champion in kickboxing ever. We had like Chai Smith, Randy Bouchard. We had all these fighters that were great fighters. Danny Bam Bam Stell. I mean, it was just a treasure trove of fighter after fighter after fighter. Pete, I can't remember his last name right now. He was a world champion boxer. And the thing about it is like a lot of fighters came out of that town and were just world champions. So I joined another team, and the coaches just had this winning mentality. In fact, one of my coaches, Jacob Stitz-Duran, he always said, he goes, "I'm going to the top, Mikey. I'm going to the top." He goes, "It's lonely at the top." He goes, "There's room at the top, Mikey. I'll take you with me. Let's go." And he kept saying that over and over. And you know what? He became one of the best cut men in the world. He's worked with Floyd Mayweather. In fact, he's in Las Vegas, and he goes to the training center all the time. He posts stuff on my Facebook page. He's talking to Floyd Mayweather Sr. and Floyd. He's at the gym with them all the time. I mean, constantly. Like, that's one of his number one places to work with people. Now, here's this picture up here. So this is a tweet he sent to me, probably 7-8 years ago, something like that. So that's Jacob Stitz-Duran. So the reason why I'm bringing all this up is there is one unique thing that I've talked about on this channel, and a lot of guys especially, it just kind of goes over their head. So here's what it is. So it's like a car engine. So when you're driving the car, you have the throttle, and what that does is when you push on the gas, it pulls this wire, and it pulls the it's like a, what do you call it? It's like a lever. What's another word for that? Well, I can't think of it, but there's this thing on the engine when it pulls the wire, it pulls this little doorway open, and the wider open it gets, the more oxygen gets in, and that's what makes your car go faster. Interesting, it's actually more oxygen that makes your car go faster. Did you know that oxygen, if you breathe in more and you do certain breathing techniques to put more oxygen into your bloodstream, into your system, you'll actually burn fat more, because oxygen is fuel and it burns. When I used to meditate and do this breathing technique every single day for at least 20 minutes, and I'd do it again later in the day for another 15-20 minutes, I would lose weight simply by doing that. That's all I would do. Another thing I would do is I would stretch for about 20 minutes or more, and I would do this deep breathing technique where I'd breathe it in and I'd stretch it out, and I'd hold my toes, my feet, or my legs, and I'd stretch for about 20 seconds or more, and then I'd release it and then stretch even deeper and then relax. If you do that every single day for 20 plus minutes and then do another separate breathing sessions for about 20 minutes, you will lose weight. Not only that, but you'll lose the craving of eating junk food. Now I'm going to get back to this. There's a purpose for sharing that about the oxygen. There's an oxygen sensor on your car's engine exactly like you have in the lower reptilian brain. It literally is an oxygen sensor. When it senses more oxygen, it opens up that artery and allows the blood to flow through, bringing more oxygen to your brain so you function at a higher level. Your oxygen molecules are the number one fuel source or food source for your brain and your muscles. Number two, and I always get it mixed up, glucose is the number two. Glucose or glycogen, I get it mixed up. It might be glycogen. But it's the same thing. Everything breaks down. Protein breaks down to carbs, which breaks down to simple carbs, which breaks down to this, which ultimately breaks down to the smallest. I think it's glucose or glycogen. I get it mixed up. Please forgive me. I gotta research that again. But the number one food source. Now understand, this is your fuel. This is your gasoline. This is the food. You're thinking, I thought it was oranges and steak. No, all of that breaks down into the smallest form for your body to use to burn. Okay? And then the other one is oxygen. So oxygen, and I'm going to say glycogen for right now. Now here's the thing. The number one fuel source is oxygen, and the number two fuel source for your muscles in your brain piggybacks ride on the so two molecules of glycogen piggybacks ride on one molecule of oxygen. So if you're not breathing, you are not oxygenating your system, and thus life is kind of boring. You don't feel motivated. You don't feel inspired. You don't feel powerful. What do they call it? The breath of life is your power. It literally, physically, scientifically is. This is where you get your power from, is from your oxygen. Now there's a couple breathing techniques. I'm not going to go over them today because it takes a while. But there's breathing techniques that I teach, and I teach you how to do it. And when you do it, if you do this one thing, it brings clarity to your mind. It calms you all the way down. And it gives you power. On top of it, it raises your metabolism. It burns fat, and it gives you energy. Now here's the thing. A lot of people who succeed in life are not really consciously aware of it. So what do I mean by a winning mentality? So when I was on the losing team, or I was with this other boxing team years ago, the energy just wasn't there. It was just kind of, everyone was kind of slugged. Like even on the football team, I'm going to use that one. Because it was just, there was this negative vibe. It was just like literally you felt tired. You felt, I don't want to say weak, but you didn't feel strong. You just felt like everything was exhausting. It's because of this negative vibe. You could feel like there wasn't a winning tradition. It just wasn't there. And because of that, unconsciously, there's a lot of things that we just didn't do. And I'll tell you what the main thing is. You thought I was going to say breathing, huh? Not quite. Here's what I noticed about the winning teams. They will look for any way to win. They will look to the rule book, like how can we get around this? What can we do? They'll look for their the other team's defensive weaknesses. They're going to look for the kickboxer's weakness. What can we do to capitalize on this guy's weaknesses? Do they have a weakness? If they do, what is it? And the thing is, every coach in the corner is looking for it. Your sparring partners that are sitting behind the coaches ringside are looking for it too. You're looking for it. It's just, there is this mentality where, what's the word? It's like all engines are on, all lights are on, all switches are flipped on, everything is on. So what is it? And what causes it? It's really quite simple. I'm going to give you the answer. I'm sure you've heard it before. All right. When I was a state champion in boxing, like, I got hooked. Like, it was just the very first day they invited me to come to the boxing team to practice. I was just like, what? Do we have a boxing team? Oh, I ran across the lawn. I jumped into these people's cars. I had only met these people like twice in my life. They lived across the street from my second cousins. And off we went, and boom, my whole life took off. I just gave you the secret. When you want something so badly, nothing will stop you, and here's why. You know, I keep talking about, the artery in the lower reptilian brain. If you do these breathing exercises, it oxygenates your bloodstream, and then the oxygen sensor on that artery senses it, and when it notices there's extra and plenty of oxygen in your system, it opens wide open and lets the oxygen and the glycogen flow up into your larger human brain, and thus it turns on all your systems. It literally says systems on. Everything is flipped on. Every switch, everything. Your awareness is heightened. Your senses are heightened. Your oxygen is flowing through your system. You're physically stronger. You're mentally sharper. Everything is on. Here's what you're doing when you're in that state of mind, when you're in that place. You are accessing both left, right, and lower reptilian systems. Your entire system is functioning together instead of just being numb in your reptilian brain going, duh, duh, or just being, I'm Mr. Logical, look at me. I'm Mr. External, is everyone looking at me in the room? All that ego stuff goes away. In fact, ego is when everything is narrow and small, which means the artery is going to be narrow and you're getting very little blood flow into the larger human brain. And thus you can't access the powers of your larger brain. So the main thing I want to say is when you want something so badly, you open up that door and you let the oxygen flow in. Your lungs literally open up. I can't forget what they're called, the capillaries, I forget what they're called, but they open up, they relax, and they let the oxygen flow in. Your arteries open up, the artery in the lower reptilian brain opens up, everything literally dilates and opens up. You literally are in the physical flow state, which gives you emotional flow and spiritual flow. Because all your capillaries, all your arteries, all your everything is just wide open, and energy and oxygen is going into your lungs, into your system, into your muscles, into your brain cells. You have more energy, you have more sharpness, you have more clarity. And that is the winning mindset. Now here's the interesting thing. When men are normally just being men, they're stuck in their left brain. Their systems are not on. Even their left brain's at a very low level. They're not functioning very high, even on a logical left brain level. But when you get people that are functioning at... Okay, so one thing you've heard me over the years talk about how most men are kind of stuck in the left brain. They never access the right brain. And one of the things I teach you guys, and here's the thing, this really is the answer that I'm indirectly hinting around, wink, wink, blink, blink. I teach men how to go internal. I teach women, you can learn this too. This will really help you to ground yourself emotionally. I teach you a series of breathing techniques. I teach you a series of internal awareness techniques, and also teach you a series of emotionally grounding techniques. And this opens up that artery, which allows the blood to flow up into the larger human brain. And just like the car, when you push on the gas pedal, it pulls that wire and it pulls that oxygen door wide open, and it lets the oxygen flow right into the engine. In fact, it gets sucked into the engine, and now it has more oxygen and it burns more gasoline, and thus you have more fire, more power, and more explosion. The human system is exactly the same way. Here's the funny thing. I've been involved in all these different sports, from boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, football, racing, etc., baseball. And I started to really notice something like these people. Now here's the word you'll hear a lot, but you don't really know what it means. Listen closely, because I've actually used the car engine and how you can burn fat because the oxygen is fuel. Here's the phrase you're going to hear. These guys are fired up. Yeah, they are literally physically fired up. They're burning more oxygen and thus more fuel, which is usually fat source, or depending on what your body's using. I don't want to go too in depth on that. But the point being is that it's burning up a lot of fuel, and so they literally physically are on fire. It's just like when you warm a car and you start pushing that gas pedal, boom, 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 you're firing that engine up. On every video I have a tone at +1 equals a tone, atonement equals at +1, because that is to atone. When you are so fired up, you have a dream, you have a goal that's more important than anything on the planet, you become at one. Your left brain opens the door to the right brain, and thus you are functioning on all three levels, left, right, and lower reptilian. This is when you are on fire for life. And I will tell you one thing I've learned. Most people have never done this. These are the people that don't believe that it's possible for them to do anything, or the person standing next to them. Oh, they must have been born special. No, you just never went after something. I'll tell you one thing right now. Don't waste your time doing something you don't want to do. If you need to do it to maybe help you with whatever your dream. See, here's how it works. When you have a dream that is so like you want it more than life itself, like literally you would rather die than not get this dream, you will do everything in your power, including things that you don't like. You will do things that you never had interest in, and you will put your heart and soul in it, because this is going to help you get that. Now, how you know you don't like something is, I don't really want to do this. Oh, I'm not in the mood. And then you start to bitch and moan and complain. And that was the guy on that 10th grade sophomore football team. He was the strongest guy. He played football since he was a kid. He was one of the best football players in the region. And he was bitching. He was complaining. Everything was a problem. And he had his face scrunched down. That's when you're in your far left brain, the analytical part. You're analyzing everything. Well, here's the deal. He didn't like football. In fact, after high school, he never played again. He just, for some reason, him and his brother were like two top football players in the region when they were little kids in Pop Warner and Pee Wee. But by the time they got to 10th grade, he hated it. He just was, because here's the deal. He wasn't so overly strong. We were starting to grow. We were starting to lift weights. We were catching up. And he didn't have the advantage he used to have when he was in 8th grade. The point being, he really didn't want to play football. But he did it because, well, that's all he had. Or that's what he thought. What he should have done was quit football, and something else would have popped up in his life that would have really, listen to what I'm about to say unconsciously, that would have really turned him on, meaning opened that oxygen door and allowed oxygen to flow in. And what would have happened to him is what happened on every single winning team that I was on. Not only was I doing it, my coaches were doing it. It was like everybody in the group, everybody on the team, or everybody in the boxing team or kickboxing team, it was like we were looking for any advantage, any angle, any everything. Now here's what happens. The male brain focuses on one little tiny thing at a time, whereas the right brain is opened up to all the options, all the possibilities. And that's what happens to you when you want it that bad. You want to go to the top. You want to compete at the absolute highest level you can at whatever you're doing. So instead of just being a male, like, oh, I'm just going to do it this way, like all of a sudden your brain turns on, you're fired up, you're looking for any advantage you can get. They call it the cutting edge. Now here's what happens. It is a very interesting thing. Not only are you looking for options and possibilities, at the same time, you're using your left brain in, what's the word I'm looking for? Hold on. In unison, in conjunction with your right brain. So all of a sudden you got men that are left and right brain, and they're functioning as a whole complete system. So now they're building in structure, going, okay, well, what are we doing wrong? Okay, we're doing this wrong. Why don't we try this option over here and fit that in there and see how that works? You're intermixing and intermingling and interchanging both the left and the right to support each other. And that is what life was always supposed to be about. So here's the thing. You've heard me talk about what narcissists do. What do? They want to hurt you emotionally, so you disconnect from your right brain, and now you're stuck in the either or mentality. It's either A or B. There's no other options. There's no other possibilities. There's either A or B, and that's it. And that's what that brain does. It looks through a filter, as I said before. Imagine a rectangle's in front of your eyes. You draw a line down the center, and now you got two boxes. Box A on the left, box B on the right, and everything gets filtered through good or bad, right or wrong, rich or poor, and all of a sudden everything gets whittled down or dwindled down to either or mentality. Here's the thing. When I look back, when I started studying with Tony Robbins and going to NLP trainings, I'm like, man, we did that in high school football. Man, I did that when I was on the kickboxing team. Hell, the world champion used to you take these deep breaths. And when I was in Hawaii, we were learning something called, there's water breathing, which is ha breathing, which I've taught you guys. And then there's something called fire breathing, where you breathe in the nose really fast and you raise your arms up and you throw them down, and you throw your legs down, you bend all the way down like you're throwing this energy ball from the top of your head down through your body. And I'm like, I remember Dennis Alexio doing that before one of his fights. Did he learn that from someone? No. Everything just comes naturally to you. You start figuring stuff out when you are on fire. Now here's the thing, I read all these books, I went to all these certification courses, all these Tony Robbins seminars, and I'm like, man, I was doing that when I was 12 years old, when I was 10 years old on the boxing team. It's like all this stuff, I'm like, wow, and that's what they'll tell you, like, yes, the people that do really well will unconsciously be doing these things and not even knowing what they're doing. So I guess you could say that the advantage of someone like Tony Robbins or an NLP trainer is they can sit there and go, okay, what's this guy doing? And now I can teach this to this guy over here. But here's something that I'm really trying to tell you even better than that. When you have a goal that is so powerful, that is so inspiring, that so gets you fired up, like you want it more, that you would literally rather die than not achieve this goal. When you have that mindset, your foot is off the brake, it's on the gas pedal, and that door to the oxygen is wide open. So here's what happens. All of a sudden you're like, well, if something's not working, you're like, I'm going to find someone who knows how to do this. I'm going to find someone who's done this before and overcome this challenge. I'm going to find someone who can teach me how to do this. What does Tony Robbins teach you? What do business coaches teach you? Well, if you don't know how to do it, you need to find a mentor. You need to find someone who's done it before and can teach you how to do that. As I'm listening, I'm like, man, I was doing that my whole life. I would walk up to different coaches from different teams like, hey, can you show me how to do that? It was just an automatic thing. In fact, everything I was learning from all these people is like, wow, I was doing all of this unconsciously. Dennis Alexio was doing this. All these Jacob Stitch Durant, all these people. As you look at what people like Tony Robbins who study successful people, here's what they're doing. These guys were doing it. Now here's why. Because they were turned on, they were fired up, they had a goal and dream that was so big. Now here it is right here, that they just went for it, and that's the secret. Now here's the deal, when you have something that you want so badly more than life itself, you will already go for it. You will go for it. You don't need me to tell you. Your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul, everything in your body is going to go as fast and as hard as it can to make it happen. You're going to seek and you'll find. You're going to knock on that door and it will be answered. You're going to ask that question and you're going to find out. Because when you're in this zone, you do everything right because you want it so badly. These people are not special. They're not better than you. They just found something that they wanted to do more than anything else on the planet. And that caused them to fight for it with every ounce in their body, every shred, everything that they had. And they went for it full blast. I mean, everything in their soul, they went for it. And you're going to find how all of a sudden your goals and dreams come true when you have that mentality. But it's not a matter of, let me go to Tony Robbins seminar and get the right mentality. No. You need to find out what you truly want to do with your life. That's how you get the mentality, because the mentality comes with it. What do you want to do with your life? I mean, what do you really, really, really want to do with your life? That's it. Alright everyone, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, go ahead and make a comment. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.